Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live, drop your comments and questions for my guest or myself in the comment box, and you'll see me turn my head from time to time. So, questions for my guest, questions for me, or comments, just drop it in the comment box. Before we start, a few words from J More Living. Summer is heating up and J More is here to help. Plan your trip with J More's special Maryland travel section, highlighting local attractions, events, and itineraries. Visit jmoreliving.com/travel to learn more about Maryland's scenic byways, the state's ice cream trail, and more. Today's guest, Victoria Granof, is the OG food creative. Her ability to express both visually and in words is truly artistry. There's nothing shy about her composition, both on the page and in film. Her culinary education rounded out Le Cordon Bleu, and her vivid style blossomed at the Fashion Institute of Technology. Her most recent cookbook, Sicily My Sweet, was ranked in the top cookbooks for 2024 by the LA Times. Victoria's quick wit, keen eye for designing outside of the box, and ability to paint a visual picture with her words has her in demand. Oh, by the way, she was a James Beard finalist and listed as one of the top 100 most creative women in food. If Das Exes beer, I can't even talk, ad had a woman instead of a man in it, Victoria would hold the title of the most interesting woman in the world. Let's welcome Victoria.
That's a good one. I love that. Thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you here. You were just everything. You were just so talented and an artist in so many ways. Like I said, with the written word, with visuals, and that's an innate ability. That's something not everybody has. So talented and work with so many interesting people. Other than the show today, what else is on your plate to do?
Ooh, what else is on my plate? Well, I'm going to be, what do I have? 5 o'clock, I'm going to be doing a Milk Street. I'm having a call to plan a Milk Street online food cooking class, baking class.
Great.
It's fun. I'm going to be sanding wooden spoons that I carved this weekend in a spoon carving seminar upstate in the country. And I have a few clients that I'm working with, helping them with their food branding and their positioning and repositioning in the food world. And waiting for hopefully a directing job to be awarded for Mike's Honey that I bid on.
Great. Well, just a couple things.
That's today. Yeah.
That's after this, other than sending links out to people, I'm going to go eat some curry chicken salad. That's what
Sounds good. That sounds good.
Do you know Ken Alba?
I do not. Uh-oh, I've failed already.
No. Ken was on the show, and he's a professor, but an extreme foodie. But he carves spoons.
Oh, really?
I will send you his information afterwards. But there isn't anything that he won't cook or try. He's got a huge following, just very interesting.
ALBA?
ALBA, I'm thinking correctly.
Is he married? Darn. All right, I will look him up. Yes, I don't know. It's an obsession with the spoons. And I've always wanted to give gifts that I've made myself that have something to do with food. And I tried to make cutting boards a few years ago, and it was unfulfilling. And I gave up halfway. And then I was crocheting French market bags, but that takes a long time. And so I thought, I'm going to learn how to do a spoon. It doesn't take long. It's very handmade. Everybody can use one. So I'm a little obsessed with it, to tell the truth.
La couture. I always sort of like to find out about someone's family table and growing up. So tell me a bit about growing up in your family table.
I'm going to write about this on my Substack, actually. It took me until I was about 12 years old, and this is a true story. I think one of my sisters is watching us. Deb, if you're there, let us know. And it took until about 12 years old till I realized that leftovers was not the name of a meal that you ate at 8 o'clock at night. Because every night, my mother, and there were always leftovers, every night she would bring out paper plates and the leftovers and say, everybody come to the table for leftovers. In the same way that she said, come to the table for breakfast or lunch or dinner or whatever other meal it was. So it wasn't until, I went to a friend's house and went, wait a minute, there was no leftover food. What are they going to eat for leftovers? And she said, everybody has leftovers. I said, well, what do they do? They'd sit down and what do they eat? It was pretty funny. My mother was a lawyer. My parents are both lawyers. And so she was really trying to get out of the kitchen more than in it. So she made a lot of those, Better Homes and Gardens and family circle recipes, quick things. We had a lot of lamb chops. She wasn't a great cook, I have to say. Well, she was an apathetic cook. I think if she'd applied herself, she would have been better. My grandmother, however, was a much better cook, and going to her house was a whole different story. And we're Sephardic, so our food is very much informed by Southern Italy, Sicily, and Turkey, which is where our family was from. So we went to her house. Well,
right. There was something in one of the stories that you wrote on the Substack, which people is delicious-tangents.substack.com, about, oh gosh.
Was it Passover and Easter?
Passover and Easter, right. Thank you. And you said your Passover was not the gefilte fish, was not the matzo balls. So tell me, tell the audience, tell everyone, what was your Passover table like?
Well, first of all, we can eat rice and beans. That's a really big deal. It's a big plus to being Sephardic. You can eat rice on Passover, which we never did, but you could do it. It's nice to know you can. We do start off our haroseth. You could actually build a pyramid with this haroseth. You could put those bricks together with this. It's made of ground up dried fruit, mostly raisins or figs, and a whole orange and a little bit of sugar, and then you cook it down. You put it through a meat grinder, and then you cook it down. So it ends up being like this thick, yummy. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. One of my sisters had a boyfriend once who came for Passover, and he said, would somebody please, he wasn't Jewish, would somebody please pass the chutney? Like, it's like, oh, the haroseth. Okay. So it is kind of like a chutney. And then we have sweet and sour celery root, apio. We have we do have rice, stuffed grape leaves with rice, and very simple, a lot of lemon rice.
Right.
We have mina, and the mina is a savory matzah pie that has ground meat and hard-boiled eggs and more eggs and more eggs and more eggs in it. What else do we have?
Any fish?
No fish. Oh, no. One time my grandmother made it, but it's not part of. No, it's not part of. And actually, it was funny that that same year that I found out about leftovers, when I was 12, my parents went on vacation during Passover, and my grandparents were somewhere else. And so they had us go spend Passover with friends of theirs, family friends that we knew who were Ashkenazic. And I have 3 younger sisters. And I remember we were all sitting there and they're all saying to me, "What is that? What is this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Just eat it and smile. I have no idea." And when I went home, I was like, "Mom, everything was round and beige." I love Ashkenazi food now, but we just weren't used to it. I was like, "What is it? It's all beige and it's round and there's this broth that you can see through." And, you know,
When you're saying beige, you were such a person of color in the work that you do. There's nothing wishy-washy by any means. The colors are vibrant. I don't, in everything that I looked at, vibrant, I look at, and it's just beautiful art. And I don't know how you can compose, what was it, one of these puzzles. I had a million things or a million food items on the table. How you can compose, you take my breath away with your talent.
Thank you.
Okay. What was it that was, I try to do a semi deep dive when I'm having somebody on the show. And you were talking about, it might have been your paternal grandmother when you were in Sicily, that you'd be invited out.
Keep
And
talking.
something about the flatware.
Oh, no, that was my maternal great-grandmother with the spoons.
Yes.
Where did I talk about that?
I don't know. One of the things.
Where did you find that? I don't even know. I'm disclosing everything.
It could have been the book review. You did a book talk with your friend who was also Sicilian.
It could have been. If it's what I think you're referring to, somehow I would always get put next to my great-grandmother at a table. Whenever we went somewhere, I was always seated next to her. And the first thing she would do when she sat down at someone else's house, even people she gave birth to, she would take this teaspoon and she would hold it under the table and bend it. And if it bent, she would say to me, "You see, they're cheap." It was the funniest thing. I don't remember. She would bend the teaspoon. I don't know what it was, but that was her thing. And she also carried a little tiny silver box that had whole cloves in it. And she would take one and chew on them as a breath freshener. The smell of cloves reminds me of her and the dentist. Mostly her.
Okay. And what smells does Sicily remind you of Sicily?
Oh, well, different places remind me of different things. The pastry shops always smell, and this is interesting. The pastry shops smell like a combination of cinnamon, cloves, and citrus. And when you mix, cinnamon is everywhere in Sicily, but it's not that kind of pumpkin spice apple pie flavor that we have. It's always, most of the time, it's mixed with something tart, like the sheep's milk ricotta, or citrus, lemon or bergamot or orange. And it completely changes it completely changes and becomes something very Eastern, very kind of gardens of paradise. It's delicious. That's what I think of most. And it used to be cigarette smoke, but you can't smoke indoors anymore. That was the smell that I don't know, that was always there, but no more. So that's good.
Well, let's talk about your recent cookbook, Sicily My Sweet, which, as I said earlier, was one of the top cookbooks for 2024. And I know that basically you wrote this a long time ago.
I wrote another one a long time ago.
Right. And this is the recent one. And it's a love letter to Sicily. It's a love letter to the sweets. And the influences in Sicily isn't just Italian, Spanish, Turkish, Northern Africa.
Very much so. They're Greek, a lot of Greek things in there. Spanish, a little bit of French and Swiss. At a moment in time, they came in there and left butter and butter and apples, pretty much. But yes, it has all of those influences, and depending on where you are in the island, the western part of the island is more Arab, and the eastern part of the island is more Greek. And it's that way in the dialect, and it's that way in the food and some of the customs. And it's not, it is really so far from being Italian. The only thing would be, I don't know, the language and the bureaucracy maybe, but it's very distinct from the rest of Italy.
A lot of the research that you did for the desserts came out of what, the convents, the monasteries, synagogues, because each group, excuse the pun, brought something different to the table on the sweets. And I remember you saying that chocolate was not, and it was not indigenous there, and it wasn't a popular thing.
It still isn't that popular, but there's one town called Modica, and it's one of the UNESCO World Heritage towns in the southeastern of Sicily. They're high Baroque towns, beautiful, beautiful. And at the same time that the Spanish were conquering Mexico and Central America, they were doing the same with Sicily. They were occupying both places at the same time. So it's kind of a cross-pollination. There was a very, very strong, very high concentration of wealthy nobility in that town, in Modica. And so they would, they were the ones that largely financed these trips across back, and it was Jewish bankers, back and forth to Mesoamerica and Mexico. And on one trip, I guess, they brought back the chocolate, and they have preserved the chocolate making so that you cannot tell the difference between Mexican chocolate and that tablet. If anyone's familiar with it, it's a tablet, and they use it to make hot chocolate. It's kind of grainy. You can still feel the sugar grains because it's cold. It's cold work, cold processed. It's not heated. So it's really, really fascinating. And that's one of the things that is only there. It's traveling around now because of globalization, people are finding out about it. But up until very recently, it was only in that one little town.
Well, the graphics alone, and people saw it in the promo piece. It goes back to your visualization, and you had a graphic artist who understood you, who really took what's up here from you and put it on the cover. And it's so visual that you cannot walk by it. It wasn't the typical somebody standing in the kitchen making something cover.
Oh, as a stylist and a creative director, if I see one more book cover where the author is standing awkwardly at her kitchen counter pretending to chop vegetables and smiling, I will just scream. It's got to stop. It has to stop.
I have to tell people, you have to at least go read one or two stories on Victoria's Substack, delicious-tangents.substack.com. One of the stories you wrote, and this sort of leads into it, the title of the story was, "My Bouche is Not Amused."
Well, thank you for saying that out loud.
It was, and I think your quote was, "Food influencers are not chefs. They are entertainers. Otherwise, they'd have their décolletage covered and wouldn't be dangling their hair extensions in the food." You're doing a lot of now. One of the things that you many talents is you ghostwrite for some of these entertainers
Yeah, who can't cook.
who can't cook and does their book. But I sat there and I went, thank you for saying that. Thank you. And my boosh is not amused.
Well, that's something that I think we have to realize. I think we have to realize that I was very upset because I would see these videos and I would see them with their hair and their food and, their décolletage uncovered and little tank tops. And I think, oh, I was brought up in a traditional kitchen, in a classic kitchen, and everything had to be covered. Everything had to be covered. It wasn't sexist or anything. It was just if you know,
Safety.
it was safety. Yeah, it was safety. And you never had your hair down. Oh, it would make me so ill when I would see these influencers. And finally I thought, if this is upsetting me, I have to figure out why. I have to come up with what is this reason behind it so I can finally put it to bed. And it was just, wait a minute, they are not chefs. They're not cooking for me. They're not cooking food I'm going to eat. They're entertaining. And so what they do with their hair is fine. So I had to really make that distinction for myself so I would stop being angry. But it's very different. Yeah, we have to remember that, I think.
Right. Another quote, because you do a lot about content creation, which is different than photography. You say this with love: content creation is not photography. Do you want to explain that in a simple way to people who might think it's the same thing?
It's a different skill set. As simply as I can, if you think of an advertising budget for, I don't know, hamburger, whatever. It's this pretty much the same as it ever was. In the old days, before digital advertising, you had magazines. And so we would do a picture, we would do a photograph, and it would be in a magazine and it would stay there. And for at least 30 days, you would look at it, go back and look and look and look. So it had to be really excellent. It had to be composed well. It had to be lit well. It had to be styled well. It had to be on good paper. And that takes time and it takes effort and it takes training and it takes professionals. And, some of these magazines were very large. So you're looking at this life-size food. Whereas with digital food content, there has to be so much more of it. And you're dealing with the same or similar budget. And that budget has to stretch for all of this online digital imagery that keeps changing and changing and changing, very dynamic. It's not 30 days, maybe it's, 30 minutes, and it has to completely change. So that budget has to stretch, but it doesn't have to be wonderful photography. It can be content, which to me is something that it's almost a cottage industry. A lot of people do it out of their homes, which is great. They're not terribly skilled, but they don't have to be. It has to be good enough so that it looks good and you go past it and it's nice to look at. And those are two different skill sets, and it's two different, I say, you don't need a neurosurgeon to remove a mole. And a lot of content doesn't have to be fabulous. It doesn't have to be large and perfect, and just has to be good enough. And content creators are filling that need. And there's a huge need for that. Huge need for lots of images.
Right. Well, now we're dealing with AI on top of that.
AI isn't really they're not really they're not taking the place of food imagery, though. They're really not. It's more the writers, but they aren't, yeah. They aren't
Okay.
doing it.
You're the expert. I am just a mere mortal.
Everybody likes to say that, but the fact of the matter is AI is not encroaching on photography they may be encroaching a little on content creation, but everybody is very, very, very sensitive to AI and what it looks like. And yeah.
I want to bring up the come to Sicily
Oh, yeah.
because I am very much interested and have spoken to two friends. And between certain things that they have to wait and find out,
Mm-hmm.
that as long as you're not sold out,
We have
then
8
two or
spots.
three, pardon me?
We have 8 spots left. And I will say we did this in just this past May. And, you know, my business partner and I, we set up a WhatsApp group because it's free there. And so just for communication with all the people in the group and our driver and all this. And we got back May 22nd, I think. And we are still communicating on that WhatsApp group. It was such a wonderful experience. We're having a little reunion of some of the people who are on the
Right.
East Coast. We're all going to go out and have Sicilian food on August 2nd. And, you know, so it's not a tour. We stay in an restored 18th century masseria, which is a farmhouse. And everybody has their own little casita apartments, and it's just it's so nice. We go this time. This time, what are we doing? We're going to Modica, and we go and we tour the oldest chocolate producer there, and they take us into their production. They show us, we have a tasting of different kinds of chocolate. There's a chocolate drink. Is really, really fascinating. We're going to go to a buffalo ranch and have us and make where they make buffalo milk ricotta, buffalo mozzarella, buffalo. We're going to go to a couple of Easter processions in the towns, in these Baroque towns. They do these big parties. We're going to have a picnic. We're going to cook and bake together. And it's just going to be really wonderful. It is a soulful Sicilian experience. We don't schlep around. We have in the afternoon, we come back to the masseria and have, you know, quiet time, which is what they do in Sicily. Our little siesta, we have our little aperitivo, we have our dinner. It's really, really nice.
Well, it's what people have seen in magazines that, you know, you're having dinner under the trees, al
Yes.
fresco.
Yep.
It looks beautiful, and I don't want to schlep all over the place.
I know. Well,
You know,
yeah, there are a lot of people that are doing this. In fact, I don't know if you know of Zoe Francois or Natasha Pickowitz, and they're both bakers. They both have shows. Zoe has a show on Magnolia Network. She's adorable. And Natasha was a pastry chef in New York, and now she's very active. And anyway, still a pastry chef. And so they're doing retreats at the end of April. And we're talking about the three of us getting together after mine and before theirs and doing like a cake camp. The three of us holding cake camp and having people come and do like a little cake retreat. So we'll see if we can pull that together. And that will be so much fun.
well, you heard my intro. I'm everything, and I'm a frustrated baker. It's just more challenging. I'm a cook. I throw this, I throw that. And obviously, in baking, you just can't throw this and throw that unless you're very knowledgeable.
Well, and even I will tell you, we went and also we visit an old flour mill. It's been renovated, but it was built on the water. There was a river going through this town, and it was built on the river there. And they grind heritage wheats and grains, Sicilian wheats and grains. And so I bought a bag, and then we went back to the masseria, and we were having a baking class, and the whole thing bombed because I wasn't used to working with this flour. So it was a fun experience. They were not beautiful cookies. They were edible. But you know, we all have our days, and it's not it. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to tell people anything you want to know about Victoria Granof is very simple. VictoriaGranof.com. Everything that she does, her cookbook doula, her directing, her food styling, her creative direction, coaching. Just go look at the colors. I mean, just
Thank you.
stunning.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Uh, and you've worked with celebrities in different ways. I believe you were Sharon Stone's personal chef for a while.
Mhm. Yeah.
You,
Charles Bronson when he was alive.
oh, I didn't know that. I didn't find. Okay, that's
That's not,
new.
I have not written about that yet. Someone reminded me of that. Somebody that I knew from way back then, this was in the early 90s, reminded me of that. I said, "Oh, you should write about that time that we went there for Christmas Eve and the 16-year-old daughter was painting her ceiling black." So, yeah, yeah, there'll be some stories of that.
I great stories. And in the food styling, you broke it down on the website as stills. So I saw that you've done Coca-Cola Perrier,
Mhm,
Motion,
mhm,
Chobani, Capital One, Morton Salt. I know there are many more.
mhm.
And the cookbooks, and I think people would be surprised uh, who you've worked with. The Red Rooster Harlem Cookbook with Marcus Samuelson. How to Cook Everything, Mark Bittman. You worked on Cherry Bomb's cookbook. But the
Mhm.
one that would stand out to people, and I'm going to let you tell the story, is Anthony Bourdain. And the floor is yours.
Oh my gosh, you mean the boar's head?
Whatever you want to
That's
say.
what oh my gosh. Well, I don't know. First of all, I wasn't shocked. I wasn't I wasn't shocked when he ended his life. I was surprised, but I wasn't shocked. He was he was a very complex person, and I don't think he was comfortable with his he wasn't at ease with his celebrity at all. So we shot for 2 weeks at his home. Well, we 1 week at his home, and then we all went to a studio and he came with us, and you know, he was in all pretty much all the shots. Um, but at first he did not want to have a food stylist. And the photographer said, "Well, you know, Victoria's not like a food stylist. He was thinking that a food stylist, his idea of a food stylist was somebody that's making ice cream out of mashed potatoes, which, by the way, is a urban myth, um, and you know, shellacking roast chickens." And so the photographer knew me. We'd worked together before. And he said, "No, no, no, she's a different kind of stylist. I think you're going to like her." So Tony said, "Okay, 1 day, I'll give her 1 day. And if I don't like her, she's gone." So there was a big banquet scene that we were going to shoot on the third day. And he likes meat. He liked meat. So I had a friend who he and his wife had just moved to Texas, to a ranch in Texas. And I called him up. It was a Wednesday, and I called him up and I said, "So, Mikey, and he had, they had a glut of wild boar there, and so there was a point at which in 2016, I think, when they were, you know, shooting a lot of wild boar. I said, "Have you shot a wild boar lately?" He said, "No, but we're going to go out, Uncle Pat and I, are tomorrow." I said, "Well, I need a head of a wild boar. And I told him what it was for. And I said, I need it FedExed overnight to arrive on Saturday morning." And he goes, "Oh, okay, no problem. I can do that." So then I called Tony's assistant, Lori, and I said, "Lori, I just want, he's going to be home Saturday, right?" She said, "Oh, yeah, he'll be home." I said, "Make sure there's a FedEx coming, and make sure that as soon as it arrives, he unpacks it and puts it in the refrigerator." So you can imagine on Saturday, you know, FedEx
Yeah.
comes, he opens his, the boar's head in there. And so Monday morning, I knocked on the door. He opened the door, like looked me up and down. He goes, "You Victoria?" I said, "Yep." He goes, "All right, you can stay." Just okay. I don't think you know who you're dealing with here, but okay. And it was wonderful. I mean, he was very open to pushing the boundaries. A lot of the things we did were crazy. There was a recipe for something cooked in a pig's bladder, and you had to inflate the pit. I don't know, it was a whole thing. And so I somehow got the bladder, and I think we used a bicycle pump to inflate the pig's bladder. And then I tied it off like a balloon and put a ribbon on it. And we shot it against a bright pink background and it looked like a balloon in the air with a ribbon attached to it. So we did that kind of stuff.
That was his book, Appetites, wasn't it? Appetite?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So people, if you have it on your shelf, go take a look at it. And I remind everybody, victoriagranof.com.
One
And
F. One F Granof.
And you can see, and I'm pointing to it on my phone that you can't see, but under her name, victoriagranof.com, everything you want to know, everything about the trip. And definitely go read delicious-tangents.substack.com. Links are on the webpage.
Mm-hmm.
I got a kick out of something you said, or I read, whatever it is, that you don't start functioning your best until 2 p.m.
Yep.
And that's when I fade on the early morning.
That's so fun. It is really important to know that, because when I started writing, like really writing, I would wake up in the morning. I'd say, "Oh, got to get an early start." And it was torture. And then finally, I know it sounds weird, but I had an astrologer. And the first thing the astrologer said, he looked at my chart and he goes, "So you are not creative before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, are you?" And that set me free. It really set me free. So I organize my day. If I need to be creative, I organize the day so I do everything, that not related to writing ahead of time. And then it's just writing. I can create visually anytime. But as far as writing, 2 o'clock, I won't even try before 2 o'clock.
I look at all your posts, the graphics that you do on Substack, like just the one, my boosh is not a muse, which was a mouth, a face with hair in the mouth. Did you do that whole graphic?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's a collage. It's a collage. I do a lot of collage.
Yeah, everybody. I'm so excited to have Victoria here on the show and introduce you to her, and for me to have the opportunity to talk with her. So we're coming up to 2 o'clock where I'm going to fade.
Already?
Well, it's 1:38.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. But let's go over the couple questions I ask at the end of the show.
Okay.
All right. If you could wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would the new talent be?
Accounting. Accounting. I have no activity in my left hemisphere or the right hemisphere, which is the left part of the brain. Nothing at all happens over there. Accounting, honest to God.
Okay. I can appreciate that. What are two musts that must be in your refrigerator?
One is tahini, because I use that for everything. I use it for salad dressings. I make granola out of it. I sometimes just dribble it on yogurt with a little honey as a snack. I do all kinds of stuff with that. And there is a very concentrated tomato. It's a tomato paste. It's only done in Sicily. You make it in the summer, and it's dried in the sun. And it's dried to such a point that it's almost like clay. It's called estratto. And it's almost like clay. And you just put a little teaspoon in soups and gravies and things and whatever you need, and it just adds this
Oh,
wonderful, and
lunch.
it's, yeah, so good, so good. I always have that. I'm always smuggling that back from Sicily with me.
Okay. What was your ultimate culinary fail?
Oh my God. Well, there was when I first started baking when I was little, I didn't realize that all white powdered substances were not equal. And so I was making chocolate chip cookies and ran out of flour. So I put baking powder or baking soda. I think it was baking powder. And it was like a science experiment. But when I was a pastry chef and I was baking in a pastry kitchen, restaurant kitchen, Donald O'Connor was coming in to celebrate his birthday at this restaurant yeah, Donald O'Connor, it was his birthday. And so his assistant had ordered a birthday cake ahead of time with, happy birthday, Mr. O'Connor on it. And so I made the cake, I decorated the cake, and the walk-in refrigerator had a step down. And I had it in the refrigerator. It came time to take it out. I go in the refrigerator, I grab this big cake, and then I tripped going down the stairs and wiped out. The cake went flying. And I wish I had a picture of this. All that was left, it was perfect. All that was left was the happy birthday, Mr. O'Connor, on a piece of icing. And it was right on my chest. So I walked out with two birthday candles in my hands. And I went, this is what's left of your cake, Mr. O'Connor. That was a big fail, but it ended up being a big laugh for everybody there.
Well, probably created a more permanent memory.
Yes.
For that day, for him, obviously for you.
Yes. It's so funny.
Let's see. What didn't I ask you that I probably should have?
What was the last meal I ate?
Okay. What's the best bite you've had all week?
Oh, gosh. There's a restaurant, a Persian restaurant called Sofre, Sofreh, in Brooklyn. And I've been trying to get into this place for so long. And we finally went like on a Tuesday afternoon. I called a friend and I said, if we can get one of those geriatric 5:30 reservations, will you come? And she said, yes. Like, we got it. They did a salad that was just a little gem lettuce that was cut in half. It had a creamy and spicy, like a harissa dressing with tahini in it. And then it had slivers of dates and green olives. Oh my God. And roasted sesame seeds. Oh God, it was so good. It was so good that I told my friend, you have to stop talking to me while I eat this because I have to concentrate. It was that good.
Well, we combined two, your best bite of the week and what didn't I ask you sort of fell in place there.
Yes.
I want to thank you, Victoria, so much. And I hope that someday our paths cross. Maybe with my friend, we'll be able to work out and come to the trip to come to Sicily with the Southern Sicilian Retreat. And just to mention to people, also they do yoga. So you can go out and do yoga.
Right. Yes, we do sunset yoga classes. And there's always an option. I don't like to force people. I don't like to, we're not holding up the big thing with the sunflower on it to keep everyone together. Everyone's very autonomous, but it's, we assemble a good group. So, yeah.
It looked like it. So, Instagram, Facebook,
Substack.
Victoria Granof. That's it, at Victoria Granof. And definitely go check, as I'm pushing it, delicioustangens.substack.com. And that's all up in the comments section. Wishing you only the best, good health, and hopefully our paths will cross.
I hope so. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dara. This has been a
Thank
pleasure.
you, Victoria. Okay, everyone. Next week's guest, that is guest plural, will be Matthew Scale, Seafood Marketing Director, and Christine Hanna, Director of Special Projects for the Maryland Department of Agriculture. It looks like we will be changing the time of the show just for that day. Tentatively, I think we're going live at 3 o'clock, but look for the promotion that comes out from Jay Moore and myself, and it will firm up the time. Just for you Baltimore locals who love going out to dine and you might be interested in following Eddie Applefield on Facebook or on Instagram. He has a YouTube channel as well where he produces a mini feature on 3 restaurants a month. He takes the time to highlight them rather than review, a look at their menus, the vibe of the restaurant, and a chat with the owner-manager. The name again is Eddie Applefield. Look it up on Facebook and it will link you to everything that he's doing. Feel free to reach out to me via email. My email is food@jmoreliving.com, or my Instagram is @DaraCooks. And on Facebook, I do have a page called the Food Enthusiast. You can sign up at jmoreliving.com for the free This Week in Eating newsletter. Recipes, local food news, and videos from the Food Enthusiast. Click on the connect button on the website, jmoreliving.com, and sign up for the emails, and you'll get one every other week. All shows are immediately archived in video form on Jay Moore Living's Facebook page and jmoreliving.com. We truly, truly appreciate it when you share our show with friends and family. Feel free to go back into our archives and enjoy past shows. May your plates always, always remain full, and we hope to see you next Thursday.